When I was 16, I changed my mind about money. I started to constantly look for the way to earn, create a product or a project that will make me rich. I've did a lot of attempts, I had a lot of defeats and several successes, so it wasn't easy at all. I didn't have a lot of money back in the days, and that's okay, teenagers usually don't have millions. However, I developed several projects and I want to share with you my ideas about how to start without or almost without capital. Everything I'll talk about I went through personal experience, so I'll speak from the position of practice. Alright, the first way. Find a job before creating a business. Whether you want to move from your parents, buy a lunch or create an online store, you need money for this. My personal advice, at the very beginning, just be straightforward and find a job. I'll talk about the situation when you don't have rich parents and you watch this video without capital. How can you create even a tiny business, like a small business with nothing to spend, zero. Each action you make will have a cost, and without any exceptions, you will have to pay for it. Let's say you decided to launch your own e-commerce store. Alright, now you need a budget for purchasing and testing products. Want to become a photographer? Okay, you need a camera. And I am not even talking about the fact that you'll need budget for some basic needs. In most cases, it's better to start by creating a financial airbag that will ensure you if something goes not according to your plan. But nevertheless, there are two options when you don't need to have a job to start, and you need to understand that they're likely to bring you more experience than money. So let's go ahead. First, if you have something in your pocket, you can start even with it. But keep in mind, here you will face one difficulty. You'll run out of cash very soon in almost any scenario. Listen to me, even if it seems that there will be almost no costs, this is a mistake. As the idea develops, you'll find out about new ways to use your money. A small improvement of a product or service will require investments. A minimal marketing campaign needs a budget too. And one more tip, when you create an approximate budget, just multiply it by 3. As practice shows, it's almost never possible to predict all unexpected expenses. I had some projects for which I incorrectly calculated the budget, and I can tell you about one of them. When I started organizing student parties, I made a mistake in budget by almost 2.5 times. It seemed that my partner and I thought about everything. Like dancers, polygraphy, rent, alcohol. Our cash was supposed to be enough for 5 events in advance, but in fact it was enough only for 2. We didn't take into account that we could lose up to 30% of our desired profit. Social media marketing appeared to be more expensive than we thought, inventory started to break, and so on. Remember, when you just start doing something, you don't have a practical experience yet. Your expectations based on the theory, but practice works differently. So always multiply your budget by 3, and most probably here your pocket money will not be enough. And the second option. Yes, you can start even without budget at all. I also have such experience. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, something like that, I started to hold meetings of students and small businesses. I wanted to test the theory that I am able to develop the project even without any investments at all. Now I can say that it's very difficult to do, really very hard, but if you succeed, you'll upgrade your soft skills a lot. It's extremely labor intensive and very time consuming. I met a lot of people constantly looking for a place where I can hold a meeting for free. I learned to get people interested in developing my ideas, paying them not with money but with new experience. Of course, I was working with students who I could help become better managers or speakers. In general, if you want to start a project without any budget at all, be ready for a challenge. You will constantly need to look for ways how to get something for free what people usually pay for. I took some video and audio recording equipment from my university or from my operators who worked with me for the portfolio. I met serial entrepreneurs, online school owners and restaurateurs. Next, I was gathering groups of students who were interested to know the path of a particular person. Then we met at businessman's site and he shared his experience with other participants. His benefit was that students are his potential customers, and students benefited from communicating with a person who reached success in their area of interest. It was like a big networking, and in total I was doing it for about 6 months. I even created a separated legal entity for all of my non-commercial activities, and 6 months was enough to understand that yes, I can create and develop the project without any investments. But to be honest, I like to make money from my ideas. Summing up, if you're ready to work for experience and even maybe lose money doing this, you can repeat my experience. If not, get a job. To do pretty much anything, you'll need to have a startup capital, and most likely you'll need more than you think. The second way. Develop a high-income skill. If you are familiar with the unlock, you already know what I mean. High-income skill is the skill that can bring you $10,000 per month and more. And don't confuse high-income skill with a high-income job. In the first case, you develop a skill that will remain with you regardless of where you work. You can always use it for yourself without depending on the employer. In the case of a high-income job, you always can be fired, or let's say the company can go bankrupt. And as an employee, you always will work for another person, so I think you understand the difference now. After you develop your high-income skill, you will be able to collaborate with other companies without becoming their slave. SEO, SMM, and any other social media service can be your high-income skill. Can be conducting and selling market research or copywriting. In my case, my high-income skill is the high-ticket closing. The logic was simple. All companies, they need sales. So people who know how to sell can always make money. I have been in sales since a very early age, even before I created my first project. In elementary school, I rented game consoles, so it was my first step. I allocated my attention to this high-income skill and decided to develop it to the maximum. I also chose high-tech industry and started to send messages to different companies. My offer was to sell their product for a commission only. To every 100 messages, I got maybe 2 or 3 positive responses. Soon I created a portfolio of products and services that I began to sell. They were similar to each other, so when I was talking with a potential client, I was able to offer him several solutions at once. It increased the number of sales and I quickly reached the goal. My high-income skill also helped me a lot when I was working in Web3 companies. Thanks to it, without any problems, I started to make very decent money there. And yes, I no longer work in companies, but I still have my skill. By the way, it helps in my business as well. So remember, a high-income skill can really boost you. In my opinion, this is much cooler than the regular work. As a result, the high-income skill can be developed with no other source of income. Of course, it will take you some time to start making money from your high-income skill. But this time and effort, they worth it. And remember that high-income skill should be scalable, so choose it wisely. And the third way, find your first investor. Most often at the initial stage, investments can be attracted from your closest contacts. It will be a relatively little money just to help you get started. I'm talking about creating a basic business plan and presenting it to your family and friends. Probably if your idea seems attractive, you'll have your first small but still capital. I advise you to be very careful with it and always sign a contract. Even if you receive money from your trusted people, it won't be redundant. It should indicate the details of transactions, the time and the amount to be returned. Firstly, it guarantees that all parties will be satisfied and nothing will be forgotten. And secondly, it gives you your first experience with contract investors. Many years ago, I borrowed money from my mom and invested it in crypto. It was quite risky, but I took it and still didn't sell what I bought at the time. My mom will receive a half of a profit from the sale and it will be a good profit. For me personally, it's quite difficult and inconvenient to have some, financial obligations to relatives. Maybe in your case it will be differently. I also want to tell you about a negative experience in which I acted as an investor. During my student days, I had a musician friend in whom I saw a great potential. And together with my other friends, we decided to invest in his production. We agreed on a monthly amount of our investment and also about the percentage that we will receive from his performances and other sales. We signed the document and for several first months everything went great. We invested money and paid back the part of our investments. But soon the terms of the contract began to be violated and for me it wasn't profitable anymore. In few months after that, previous agreements were almost completely forgotten. And here I made a huge mistake. I closed my eyes to these violations. Remember, if you sign a document, follow it. If your rights are violated, don't stand idle, fight back and protect your money. After that incident, I'm much tougher on oral and written agreements. As a result, you can use money of your first investor to start. But don't be fooled. Even small investments are investments and you should treat them properly. A couple of words about all above. Choosing between finding a job, creating a high-income skill or searching for investment, I would focus on first two. It's better to attract investments if you already have experience and money. Investments should increase your opportunities, not to become the only chance. If you risk more than you have, the risk becomes unreasonably high. Playing safe might be a good choice at first. Money is earned by people with experience, and now you have a wonderful opportunity to gain this experience. I would advise to aim for this at the beginning, not for huge profits. Build a base for yourself, the rest will come with time. Watch my previous video where I'm talking about 5 secrets of managing money for teenagers. It definitely will be helpful. Thank you for staying with me. See you next Tuesday.